I was recently sent this Kactoily aquarium water testing device / monitor for free. I didn't buy it. So I thought I'd give it a whirl on a bunch of my different ponds, talk about the different things it reads, and why you might be interested in knowing these numbers in your own pond. If you don't already know me, my name is Kev, and the aim of my channel is to help people build and maintain ponds without spending a fortune. If that sounds like something that interests you, you might like to subscribe and check out my website, Ozponds.com. So this kit comes with everything you need ready to go. It's got 2 USB adapters, mounting kits, either suction cups, magnets, or a mounting bracket. It has the probe that takes the readings and a display panel that shows you the readings. It's got a well-written manual, an instruction booklet. They also offer helpful tips on how to adjust water parameters if they fall outside what you're trying to achieve. It also has recalibration solutions, so you can recalibrate the probe if you're concerned that the readings are off. It comes fully calibrated when you get it, and it's ready to go. This particular unit measures pH, temperature, total dissolved solids, electrical conductivity, salinity, specific gravity, and the oxidation reduction potential. So that's the unit and what it measures. Now let's take it for a spin. Might as well start here on my largest pond. This one I call the Dream Pond, and I built it in 2021. If you're new to the channel, you can have a look at how all my ponds were built by scrolling through the previous uploads. They're all there. So on this pond we have a pH of 7.27, temperature of 19.4 Celsius, total dissolved solids 59 parts per million, salinity percentage at 0, specific gravity at 1, electric conductivity at 119, and an oxidation reduction potential of 37.1 millivolts. Now the electrical conductivity is basically the same as the TDS, the salinity and the specific gravity. Because the probe can't measure these values, it uses a calculation to determine the values based on the electrical conductivity. So I personally like the TDS, as I understand what it means. It's the total dissolved solids or substances in the water. The lower the TDS, the more pure the water is. Minerals, certain organic waste, and fish food will increase the TDS. So the unit only really measures 4 parameters, but it spits you out 7 readings. Now I'm sure there's people smarter than me that find all the values useful. But anyway, let's move on to another pond. This is one of my patio ponds. This one I call the ornamental aquaponic system. It sits under the roof line on the veranda. It's been running for over 5 years, but I've made filter modifications and experiments over that time. It has rice fish in it, and I feed this pond every day during this time of year, which is summer. Instantly you can see that the temperature is much cooler in this pond, as it's not exposed to much sun. The pH is about the same, the TDS is way higher, and the AUP, or oxidation reduction potential, is much lower. The temperature and the pH are both fine. I have no issues with them, but the TDS is pretty high compared to the last pond. Remember, that's kind of the guide to the purity of the water. The AUP is much lower, which measures the ability to oxidize waste inside the pond. I think oxidize is a fancy way of saying process. So the higher the AUP reading, the quicker the pond can process waste like poo and uneaten food. That's my basic understanding, and I might be a little bit wrong. Even though the AUP was lower, it still falls in an acceptable range according to the manual that came with the unit. Same with the TDS. So I have a theory on why this pond is different to the last one. Both ponds have well-sized bulk filters, but that's where the similarities stop. I talk about it all the time, how I'm a low-maintenance kind of guy, so water changes, well, that's not really going to happen for me. Out on the Dream Pond, I have rainfall, and even one of my downpipes from the house feeding the pond. Therefore, it's receiving a water change whenever it rains. The water change amount varies depending on the rainfall. This pond, however, sits under the roof line. It receives no rain and therefore no water changes. All I do is top up the water lost to evaporation, plus I'm feeding the fish. So it does make sense that the TDS is higher as the materials inside the water don't really evaporate out, whereas the water is replaced in the other pond, and as it is, some of the materials inside the water leave. I guess it's a bit the same with the AWP reading. As the bacteria are busily consuming the extra waste and leftover materials in this pond, they consume energy and oxygen and therefore lower the oxidizing potential of the water. So basically this pond has more demands with less help. I'm sure if I started doing a water change here and there, I could improve the values of the TDS and the AWP. So next I headed down to the courtyard pond. I was a bit nervous about this pond. I built it back in 2019 and used my bog in a barrel design. The bog filter is smaller than I'd normally use for a pond this size. This pond also has a lot of mold build-up as it sits beneath Japanese maples. pH 7.25 and temperature 17.4 Celsius, that's all good. TDS 100 parts per million and an AWP of 323 millivolts. Well, that's way better than I expected. I was sure that all the mold would lower these values significantly, well, raise the TDS and lower the AWP. However, I do know that the mold is supposed to be inert, meaning it's been stripped of all the nutrients, minerals, etc. So even though it looks ugly, it's having no real impact on the water chemistry. It would certainly help that the pond is only lightly stocked. Currently there's only 8 adult goldfish in here. It's also outdoors and gets whatever rainfall falls inside the pond. This time of year, I also top it up once or twice a week, as we don't get a lot of rain in summer. This pond was built because I couldn't justify the cost of aquascape products, but then a year later, I thought I wanted to be an aquascape contractor and purchase 2 pond kits. You need to complete 3 builds using their products. So one I set up for my parents and the other one I set up here. So let's take a look at that one next. This one was built in 2020 using their small professional pond kit. It previously had goldfish in it, but they got eaten by birds. Now it has 2 silver perch and some white cloud, mountain minnows and gudgeons. Those are both really just there as a food source for the perch. Everything was pretty similar to the readings on the other 2 outdoor ponds that we've already looked at. The AWP was a bit better and the pH was slightly lower. The filters on this pond are a bit different to a bog filter. They use a high flow and lots of oxygen. This should help the AWP reading. It also means the bacteria is predominantly, or probably even solely, aerobic bacteria, which means oxygen loving. As I'm doing this video, I'm trying to find a source because I could have sworn I've read that aerobic bacteria can lower pH, but I can't seem to find that again, and so maybe I'm wrong. I do know that in the past I've had pH get quite low in aquariums that rely solely on aerobic bacteria, but I did also have a lot of driftwood in those aquariums, and that could have been the cause. If you're knowledgeable on the subject, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the description. Either way, that was the only real difference in this pond compared to the ones that run bog filters. It's worth mentioning that pH can also fluctuate throughout the day, so it might just be that. Things like ammonia can become more toxic at certain pH. Bacteria populations can crash, but I don't like to try and tinker with pH. I figure if we try and keep the ponds as natural as possible, we should be okay. Remember, I'm hands-off, lazy, efficient, whatever you want to call it. So the aquascape pond, the courtyard pond and the dream pond all have a certain amount of mold that is built up, and they all have similar readings. They also have very little issues with algae. There's a little bit here and there, but nothing too much. They were all built using liner, rock, pebble and plants, the ecosystem approach, and they're all over 2 years old. So now let's take a look at a newer pond that's built in the same way. This one you'll find listed as my goldfish pond. This was built in 2022 and it's made to look like it's connected to the dream pond. I have recently changed my mind about the goldfish and this will become a native pond also. Anyway, this pond is still finding its feet and quite often I get some algae growth up in the stream. This is the pond I tried the hydrogen peroxide on. It worked, but it's a band-aid solution. The algae is slowly returning. I'm not worried because I know that over time the balance will be found, just like it has in all the other ponds. So I was wondering, how different will the readings be on this pond? Well, they weren't all that different. The pH was still pretty much neutral, the temperature at 18.3 Celsius, a very low TDS at 58, and a decent ALT reading of 306 millivolts. So I can't see anything that jumps out as to why this pond has more algae than the other ponds. Of course, algae needs nutrients, and this water test isn't checking for ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, or phosphate, so that could be an issue. It's also worth noting that all the other ponds went through the same issues when they were young, but now they pretty much look after themselves. An interesting thing that I notice when you test ponds with algae is that you still get the same readings as ponds without, and I suspect it's because the algae is using up those nutrients. Algae grows incredibly quickly, so when the nutrients are available, it uses them to grow. Then as the nutrients are no longer available, it slowly dies off. But that means you hardly ever find them in the test kit readings, at least not in the cheap API test kits that I use. So speaking of algae, I have a pond that's completely green, so let's see what readings we get on that one. This bowl was added to the courtyard during my solar-only pond and stream that I built in 2023. I'm still not fully sure what I'm going to do with it at the moment. It's just got some plants, as I'd love to see if they alone can clear the green water. I'm skeptical based on past experience. Anyway, the thing that immediately jumped out when I tested was the pH, 9.18. I've never seen my pH that high on any aquarium or pond. So I figured all this testing on the different ponds has already buggered up the unit, but I was interested, so I got out the old API water test kit and tested all the parameters. Sure enough, the pH reading was as high as the test goes. While I was there, I also tested the ammonia, nitrite and nitrate, and just as I expected, they were all negligible. Again, I figured this is because the single-celled algae that has turned the water green has become the filter, and it's doing a great job at consuming all that nitrogen. Anyway, as we can see from the Kactoily and the API test kit, the water apart from the pH is pretty comparable to the other ponds. I'm not sure exactly what's causing the high pH. It might be the pot itself, or something in the potting soil I used, the sand cap, or maybe even the birch seeds falling in. I really don't know. If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. Like I said, I'm still not sure what will become of this pond, but I do know that I could get the water clear if I added a bog filter. In fact, I could guarantee it. If that's a video you'd like to see, let me know in the comments. So seeing as I was right there, I put the probe in the solar pond and stream. Nothing too unexpected there. The TDS is higher than the other outdoor ponds. That's probably because it sits under these birch trees, and the birds have been having a corroboree up there, and they've dropped tons of leaf material and seeds down into the stream. Also, the original pump died, and it took weeks for a replacement to come, so it was offline for a long time, and it went really gross. I forgot to mention that this pot did the same. It's also under the birch, but about a week before I did the test, I did empty it out and I replaced almost all the water. I forgot about that. So that could be why I got better than expected readings. And that might make you wonder, like it made me wonder, what's the pH of my tap water? So I filled a jug with tap water, put the probe in, and I got a reading of just over 8. I probably should do an update on the solar pond, but maybe just this walk around kind of serves as an update anyway. Right beside the solar pond is the wine barrel pond that I set up a couple of months ago, and I just published a video on it. It's got no pump, no dedicated filter, although the deep substrate and the plants should be providing enough filtration. Here's the reading on that. The pH is lower than 7, probably to be expected with the wooden barrel and dirted bottom. Nothing else looks too out of the ordinary there to my untrained eye. I'm sure someone will let me know in the comments that I'm an absolute disgrace for not knowing what I'm talking about, or that I make terrible videos. But I enjoy sharing what works for me. If it doesn't work for you, try something else. There's so much information out there these days. We're incredibly lucky how much you can learn. I think there's lots of ways to keep and maintain ponds and fish. There's no one way is right for everyone. The next pond I tested was another wine barrel. This one has a bog filter and it's under the roof line like the second pond that we looked at. This pond was built in 2017 or 18, I can't remember exactly. But again, totally lazy, no water changes, just top-ups and feed the fish. I do take out some of the fish and put them in the perch, aquascape pond if it becomes too crowded. There's lots of babies in there at the moment. The reading on this surprised me a bit. I expected the TDS to be as high or higher than the other pond that was under the roof line. I've also noticed that the AURT readings seem to be lower on the ponds that I feed. I'm not sure if that indicates the quality of food isn't as good, or it's just the amount of fish, probably a bit of both. I just realised that a few months ago, I had a plumbing malfunction on this pond. Almost all the water was lost overnight. So a few months ago, it had a 100% water change, and that's probably why the TDS is better than I expected. Anyway, that was pretty much it for the ponds that I tested on this day. I could keep going on the other ponds, but we'll be here all day. I'm sure I've well and truly bored everyone to death already. I did enjoy using the device, and I found that I could connect it to a portable battery pack, and that made checking all the ponds much easier. At the start, I was dragging around an extension lead. One more, while I was editing this, I couldn't help myself. I put it on the aquarium next to my computer. Here's the ratings if you're interested. So the unit's designed to be placed in one pond or aquarium and left there so that you can monitor the parameters every day. For me, that's not personally useful. I have lots of ponds, and I certainly couldn't afford to put one on each pond. Although having the USB plugs is really handy, as I can now easily move it around to different ponds if I want to do a quick test on the temperature, pH, or TDS. The things that it measures are useful, but they don't tell the whole story on how healthy or unhealthy the water is. I think it'd be a useful unit for someone with a dedicated koi pond or a saltwater aquarium. I hope to have a reef tank one day. Koi still remain illegal where I live. It'd also be handy for anyone that's catching fish out in the wild and wants to quickly check water parameters. I appreciate the people at Kactoily for sending me the unit for free, and like I said, I enjoyed playing around with it. I'll leave a link in the description to their website. If you want to check it out, feel free. I don't get any kickback or anything like that. They just offered to give it to me if I shared it with my audience. You can make your own decision if it's useful to you or not. Anyway, I hope you found some value in this long video, and if you did, the thumbs up button enjoys a tickle. As always, thanks for watching. See ya.